Yes, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My special invisible guest is Libby Gill.
I had to turn off my cell phone, David. The only thing I forgot.
I know. This is the life of a superstar celebrity, and I am so thrilled that you are here. Here's the deal. You've got your fancy-looking bookcase behind you. I've got my fancy-looking bookcase behind me. So this must be going to be a fantastic, tremendous interview. Our theme and our topic is to get the heck out of your own way, overcome the three biggest obstacles to stop thinking and start writing, overcoming the three biggest writing fears. And we have a special little offer happening, and we've got some smart conversation happening. So even before we get to all of that, for the small handful of people who do not know about your awesomeness, can you give us the Libby Gill professional journey that brought you to your chair right now? What's the backstory?
Well, I was born at a very young age. No, I won't do that. I was Steve Martin. I spent my first career in the corporate world, and I was a C-suite communications person, and I ran communications, all of that marketing, promotion, public relations, media relations for Sony, Universal, and Turner Broadcasting. Finally said enough is enough, and kind of put out my coaching shingle, which was a scary thing. I'd never had my own business, and I started that in my 40s, and here it is. Many years later, I've been an executive coach and a speaker all these years. And along the way, written half a dozen books. My next one went to the publisher today. It comes out in January with a foreword by Jim Collins. How awesome is that? And so that's what I'm doing now, delivering coaching in different ways and having fun with cool people like you.
And now you, because of the writing, people have come to you, various executives and entrepreneurs, and say, Libby, I am stuck. I'm trying to write. I'm trying to be creative. I'm trying to produce some content. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's web copy. Maybe it's blog posts. The dreaded writer's block. I always like to say it's not really writer's block, it's thinker's block, because once you have the idea, writing is not a problem. No one is like, I don't know how to use the pen. I don't know how to use the pen. I have all these great ideas, but I can't write. It's not writer's block, it's thinker's block. Tell us about, let's start talking down the path of some of these mistakes so you can stop thinking and start writing.
Exactly. Okay. So people have, well, even when people have ideas, sometimes they can't put them down on paper. You're right. It's like entrepreneurs, particularly speakers, too many ideas, too little time. So they just get stuck swirling around in their heads. But one of the biggest things I see is people think, I don't have anything to say, by which they mean I don't have anything new to say. But there is nothing new. The truth is, you'd be hard pressed to come up with a new idea. You know, a gadget or electronics, yes, those things come up all the time, but an idea to talk or write about. But the trick is once you get past that and think, I have something to say that's new because it's in my voice. It's through the lens of my experience, then you can begin to let go of that. And I find the more I write and kind of the more I just let go and be myself, the more fun I have with the writing and the more people connect. My newsletter that went out today, the title was Why I Found My Path Being a Hand Model for Cat Food Brand. You know, so that's something I think people feel compelled to understand, is why one can talk to them about their message after having been a hand model for Fancy Feast cat food, for example.
That was you.
That was me. Yeah. That was after the talking Christmas tree and before the tap dancing bear. But that was me, yes, early on in my career.
Wow. How about that? Were they looking for a certain position, like with the can or with the bowl? Or kind of what was can you give us a demo? Was it
There's a trick. There's always a trick because you are, it was the crystal goblet. Do you remember that?
Of course, sure.
The crystal, and it had the pop top, which was quite the revolution in its time. And that was me holding the pop top.
There you go. There you go. So lesson number 1 is authenticity, be yourself, cut loose, do not worry about being someone else, your voice, your personality, let that come through in the writing.
And don't worry about being the first, the only who has ever said that. I mean, think about, talking to speakers about are there really any speakers who've maybe once in a while who've thought of something new? No, it's leadership. You're a leadership speaker. Find your way in. That's all. So when people get past that, they understand that it doesn't have to be new or different. It has to be compelling. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then we are going to start talking about the Sprint Writing Studio, because this is very important. And we'll come back to the other 2 secrets of stop thinking, start writing. When Do It Marketing came out, there we go. I even did it. I did it right this time. I always get these 2 screwed up. When this came out, someone who I admire a lot gave me what I thought was a terrible backhanded compliment. He says, David, I love what you've done with the ideas. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean I love what you've done with the ideas? These are my ideas. These are my practices, my philosophies, my concepts. And he says, no, no, no. You don't understand. So there's 6 good pages in the world on any given topic. So there's 6 good pages on leadership. All the other leadership books are some variation, subset, interpretation of those 6 pages.
Okay.
He says, David, I love you like a brother. There's 6 good pages on marketing, and you didn't create any of those 6 pages. There's 6 good pages on sales. There's 6 good pages on presentation skills. There's 6 good pages on financial savvy or eating healthy or whatever. Every other diet book is a variation, permutation, combination, and regurgitation through that expert's lens, through their opinions, their recommendation, their biases, what's right with the world, what's wrong with the world. So when I say I love what you've done with the ideas, that is the biggest compliment that I could possibly give, because you've put your original voice and your original flavor on these time-tested ideas, fully acknowledging there's nothing new under the sun. Right. I'm not going to invent anything new. You're not going to invent anything new. So that, to me, now I look at it as the greatest compliment that I've ever gotten, whereas at first I found it insulting when someone says, I like what you've done with the ideas. So let's talk about this, because this is super exciting. Sprint Writing Studio. This is something new and cool that you have created based on demand, because people kept asking you for it. Yep. What is it? How does it work? Give us the story.
Well, when we all got locked down and people were trying to reinvent, figure out who they were, what they were going to do next, I started a coaching group. And just open to anyone every Wednesday afternoon. Got people from Australia to Trinidad to Canada. And it was really amazing to hear all these people's different stories and to have them stick with the group. And one day I thought, I don't get to go to my coffee shop. That's my favorite writer's coffee shop in Santa Monica, out here near me. It's locked down, of course, like everything else. And I used to go there 3 hours solid once a week, a 3-hour time block, which was what I had to put on the meter. So I thought, how do I recreate that in this world? And I just asked a group of friends if they wanted to hop on and write together. And oh my gosh, before I knew it, I had so many people coming in. Another group spun off from that, and another. And then I thought, wow, I'm going to just run this group, not as a writer, but as an editor for others. So I opened up the Sprint Writing Studio, where people come in once a week for 90 minutes. They come in with an idea. I'm going to write a blog. I'm going to write 2,500 words of this book I'm working on. I'm going to write a chapter outline for a nonfiction book. I'm going to write my newsletter. One fellow does his podcast show notes. And so I hold this space for them. They show up. We work like this on Zoom. We can see each other. Some people leave their microphones on. We hear, the people making breakfast in the kitchen. We hear people coming and going, which is just kind of pleasant coffee shop background noise. And I stay on for those 90 minutes as their guide and editor. So when someone gets stuck, we whisk into the little breakout room and they can tell me where they're stuck or what's going on. I give them a starting point or a reboot. We go back and they start again. Or someone will say, hey, will you read my website page about my virtual dog training? Absolutely. Fix some paragraphs, move some headlines around, do some tweaks here and there, send it back to them. It is time and money well spent. They get a professional editor because, I've written 6 books, tons of articles, peer-reviewed articles that are tough by, science and healthcare. I was a columnist for 2 years in the Dallas Morning News. I sold a screenplay as a kid back in the day. There's not a lot I haven't written in terms of genre because I spent my entire first career as a professional writer in communications. So being able to guide people and give them tweaks and edits and feedback, and sometimes it's just plain old encouragement, they get so re-engaged and they have so much fun writing, and that's what we do.
Totally amazing. Now, we're going to give people a URL and a special pricing consideration.
Yep.
And this should be live, up and running right now. davidscoolfriends.com is where to go check out Libby's program. And tell us about the pricing special deal that we're getting now for the next little bit of time.
I will. I think of this as my David's Cool Friends discount. And what I'm going to do is give that 90 minutes feedback. We also have a private Facebook page where I answer questions and give goodies. And it is, once I fill this group, it's going to be at $197 a month. It's a membership. So once you come in at your price, that's it. As long as you're in the group, that's your price. Doesn't matter if it goes way up. You've got your price grandfathered in. But right now, anybody that's coming from David's Cool Friends group, it's $127 a month, which if you were going to go out and hire a professional editor, well, the last time I wanted to do that, I think the quote was $5,000. And that was a little steep for me. So I edit people's book pages, anything they need work on, website material, keynote material, marketing blogs, newsletters, all of the stuff that speakers have to write, because speakers have to do it all. You got to have a book. You got to have an ebook. You've got to have, your regular newsletters that are going out. You've got to have your bureau newsletters or your client newsletters, all of that stuff. I'm writing the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're so good with the message part of it, David, with people figuring out who the heck they are in the speaker world and how that sells and what that value proposition is. And as you know, that is the starting point. Without that, forget it. You're not going anywhere. Right. But once you've got that, you got to find a bunch of different ways to put message and language and formats and structure behind it.
Right. Exactly. Well, let's talk, because this is so important. Basically, if you are in the expert marketplace, what's one obvious, clear, and abundantly signaling characteristic of an expert? Experts write. Period. End of sentence. Experts write. Doesn't have to be a book like Libby was talking about, but you got to write blogs. You got to write email. You got to write your LinkedIn profile. You got to write articles. You have to write in order to express your expertise.
Yeah.
If an expert is sitting in her or his office quietly, does anyone see them as an expert? Probably not. Probably not. So let's talk more about what are some of the 2 other secrets of getting out of our head and onto paper. And we're just going to keep that link going right down at the bottom here, davidscoolfriends.com. That's where to get in on this. And we're going to continue with our theme of stop thinking, start writing, which is exactly what the Sprint Writing Studio is about. But what is block number 2 and secret number 2?
People will judge me. People will look at my writing and make assumptions about me. What people are really saying is people will hate me. They're going to see that and think, oh, you're not credible. You're not a good writer. You're not who you say you are. The more I put out there, the less they're going to love me. And the truth is, when I wrote my first book, a very wise author said to me, they'll either applaud or throw tomatoes. And I found, I come to find that one of those was better than silence. Either one of those. You really want people to react to you. If you polarize them, I mean, I knew that from my reality television days. You don't want somebody right in the middle. You want somebody that polarizes. They're going to love you or they're going to hate you. And sometimes if they hate you, they love to argue with you. And that's okay too. So it's not that they're judging you as a human being, but we all make assumptions all the time. That's how our brains are wired. That's how we stay alive. So that is critically important, that we are understanding that it's not a personal takedown of who you are as a human being, but people are allowed to have opinions. And frankly, if somebody came to me and they were looking for someone to overhaul their supply chain, they could take just one glance and know, oh, she's useless. I am not the one for that. And frankly, I just assume they go away and disqualify themselves as opposed to spend time trying to convince them that I know what I'm talking about in that regard. So you really do want people to know who you are, what you're about, and what you've got for them.
So people are afraid, and this is the same reason, by the way, that people are afraid of speaking. By the way, no one's afraid of speaking, whether you're in front of 2 people or 200 people or 2,000 people or 20,000 people for that matter. No one's really afraid of speaking. They're afraid of being judged while they're speaking.
Totally.
Right? What if I stutter? What if I stumble? What if I fall off the stage? What if I say something stupid? What if I freeze up? What if? It's like, they're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think I'm a schmuck. They're going to think I'm less than professional and wonderful and so forth. And what I always say is that really no one cares about you. No one cares about you until the moment that you start adding value to their life or their business or their career. Then they'll stick with you like white on rice and you'll have a fan for life. You know, by the way, this is so funny because we're doing this whole thing on video. A lot of these writing blockages are the same reasons people don't flip on the webcam, Libby, and do what you and I are doing now. Yeah. Right? I don't know what to say. I don't know if there's going to be anything new. I don't want to be polarizing. I want to be liked. I want to make sure that, you know, I don't ruffle any feathers. My friends, if you're in the thought leadership business, if you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a speaker, you're any sort of thought leader on any level, you need to be out in the public eye with your writing, with your ideas, and with your voice. And so that's one of the reasons I just love when Libby and I were talking about this, I said, we got to tell people about the Sprint Writing Studio. And just between you and me, I mean, no one's really watching. We're not like in a public forum here or anything. You are underpricing this like nobody's business. This should be like $500 to $1,000 a month. That's what people would pay, should pay, could pay. So this is huge. And when people go to davidscoolfriends.com, they're getting the David's Cool Friends rate. Now, when you say until the program is full, what kind of capacity is full? Are we looking at 20 people, 30 people? What does full look like?
Well, right now I've got about 11 slots.
Okay.
And then we'll be full up for this. And then I'll roll out another one, but I may not do that until the next quarter.
Okay.
So I got 11 spots for people. I want to keep it, you know, fairly intimate so that I can give people attention and time. And that's also what the Facebook group is for, so that they can ask questions. But I'll tell you, when you're talking about people getting their value, I'll give you one simple story. Is I've got a woman in the group, lovely woman, writing a book. It's a parenting book, and it's kind of a spin-off of her personal life, which makes it really, really relevant and interesting about the hardships of single momhood. And it's funny. And so she's writing this book. And I said, well, wait a minute, let me back up a step. Are you self-publishing? Which is absolutely a viable way to go. Years ago, it was called vanity publishing. That's a history. Now it's a good way to go. She said, you know, as my first book, and she's a good writer. She said, I'd really like to be house published. I'd really like to pitch this out to an agent and a publisher. And I said, then why are you writing a book? And she just looked at me and like, what do you mean? I said, you don't sell a book to a publisher or an agent with a manuscript. You got to write a proposal. Had never occurred to her. She had no idea. I said, well, here, take mine. And in fact, I'll give that to everybody, whether they sign up or not. If any of your listeners want to just email me, Libby at libbygill.com, I will give them a book proposal. And it is one I sold a book on that continues to be popular today, my You Unstuck. And this woman, it was like, here's the format. Just do what I did. That's how it's done. Saved her probably a year of writing this book and then finding out, well, gee, if you'd changed this or you'd made it more this, we could have sold it. But here it is, this whole book that you're making an agent wade through when they only want to read about 40 pages in order to tell if they can pitch it or sell it. So stuff like that, because I've done all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, I made my own mistakes. It took me to book number 3 to figure out, you want a book that you can model? Like, doesn't matter if it's a gardening book or a cookbook, but, I like how they've broken out the pages and they have this end note and they've got this cool 3 questions. It's like, follow a book's format to structure your own.
That is so, so brilliant. And I'll tell you, when I was writing both my books, I would, back when we could go into bookstores, and they're reopening now again, so that's good.
Yay.
But I have an entire shelf of exactly what you're talking about. I thought I was the only sick book pervert that did this. I was like, these are my template books. And one is on relationships, has nothing to do with business or marketing, but it's kind of like a book and a workbook, and it's got color on the inside, and it's really cool. So I would go, when I was in this book publishing process, I would walk into a bookstore, used bookstore usually, and I would just go format shopping. I wasn't even looking for content. I was like, ooh, this is a cool format. Look at this layout. Look at the way they've integrated some workbook style elements. And people that know my books know that it's kind of like visual plus graphics plus workbook stuff plus whatever. And that's because I did exactly what Libby's saying, is that I would go and I would say, okay, I want it to kind of look like this, be organized like this, have these short 1-2 page chapters like this third one. I want this at the end. Here's what I want the sidebars to look like. And it's funny because I don't think it's here. I think it's downstairs in my bookshelf downstairs, but I still have all of these books together in a group, and it's my template bookshelf.
Absolutely. When I saw a book with quotes, like really cool, interesting quotes broken out in little boxes, I thought, I'd never thought of that. I'm going to do that.
Right.
It's all out there. It's just knowing where to look.
Totally. All right. So Sprint Writing Studio, that's happening right now when people go to davidscoolfriends.com. Mistake number 3, to help people stop thinking and start writing. What's the third final secret?
This is the biggie. This is I don't have time. I don't have patience. I don't have skill. I don't have whatever. So I really can't even get started. So if you tell yourself that and you believe it, then, just goodbye. It's over. Game over. But the truth is, if it is important to you as a speaker to have this marketing, this thought leadership, your ebook, your 10 top whatevers for your business or your speech, then you got to sit down and do it. I mean, it's the whole thing. Do it marketing. Right. I started by calling this Get It Done Writing Group. And it's that sit down and do it. And it's so interesting. I mean, it's like the difference between you can sign up for a gym membership and maybe you'll show up, or you can sign up for a trainer and pay in advance. Like as soon as we open back up, that's what I do. I've had the same trainer for more than a decade. I pay him a month at a time and I show up, partly because I'm cheap. And if I put the money in, I'm going, and partly because I know it's good for me. And I work a lot harder with him than I do on my own. Right. It's the same thing. You've got your space on Thursday morning. This is where you're going. There's that subtle, I'm letting the group down if I don't show up. And I'm letting myself down. But mostly, Libby's sitting there waiting for my pearls of wisdom to help me get them out into the world. And it's that accountability, like in everything else, like in Do It marketing. You can think about it forever.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't do it so well when you get started, who cares? You got to start. You got to get it out. The marketplace will tell you the rest. And if you've gotten past the people will judge me, you put it out there and you find out, are people reading it? Or are they opening my email? And you tweak from there.
People can't hire you if they don't judge you.
Yeah.
That's your new tagline. People can't hire. Oh, I'm afraid of being judged. I love being judged.
Yeah.
If I could wave a magic wand, I would be judged 10 times a day, because 7 times the judgment would be no thanks, and I'd make 3 sales.
Yeah, that's
3
a good
times
day.
would be like, I love this guy. I'm signing up with this guy. This is my guy. I am judging him. The judge and the jury say yes, 10. Right? It's like in the Olympics, you hold up the card, says 10.0. Other people think I'm a 3.0 or a 2.0 or a 0, and I'm not their cup of tea. They're not my cup of tea. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the more you write, the more that you put your ideas out there in the marketplace, people will be attracted to those ideas or they'll be repelled by those ideas. Both of these things are good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And if people don't want to, if they don't want to work with a speaker marketing coach who's got a point of view and a big personality and can be loud and funny, they're not going with David Newman.
They're not.
They're going to go find somebody else. But it's true. It's the more of you put out there. I mean, I get judged as on coaching every day. They call it chemistry calls.
Yes.
The magic number seems to be 3. Every client, I just got off of one. Oh, I'm going to talk to 2 other coaches and then I'll get back to you. Great. And if I'm not as fully me, and not only in the process, of course, I've got a process. I want to explain that, but I want them to get the gist of my personality so they can see if the chemistry's right. Right. But if you hold that back, how are they even going to judge?
It's true. They can't buy if they don't judge.
Oh, that's a good one.
If they don't judge. I want to go back for a moment to what you said about the personal trainer and going to the gym. I have been doing these group programs for years and years and years. Years, like 12 years. Invariably, let's say that one of our groups meets on Thursdays at 2:00 Eastern. The group is completely silent for 6.5 days. But man, Thursday morning, people are uploading the homework. They're doing their, oh my God, I have to. And Libby, even with one-on-one clients, you've had this happen. I've had this happen. Yeah. A one-on-one client's going to get on the phone with you and say, Libby, I saw this on my calendar. I couldn't show up to this call without having done the assignment that you asked me to do.
For sure.
Or I could not have shown up on this call without making the decision that you asked me to make. So here's my decision. Here's the paperwork. Here's what I decided to do. Here's what I processed out loud in the way my business should go, or whatever it is. So 6.5 days. Wait, procrastinate. I'm not sure. Let me avoid. Let me get up. Let me make a 3rd cup of coffee. Let me go check my books on my bookshelf. Call with Libby. I guess I have to show up. I guess I better do the work. Otherwise, I cannot show my face in the group, in the sprint writing studio going, yeah, I didn't get to it. Yeah, I didn't make time for it. It wasn't a priority. It's like, dude or dudette, it's your writing. It's your material. How can you not make your own work a priority? You're not doing it for Libby. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for yourself. But I'll tell you, that personal trainer tapping her foot, waiting for you in the gym is a very strong motivating factor.
It is uncanny, David. You are so right on. Anybody that's ever been in any kind of coaching capacity or had anybody looking over their shoulder, I mean, I sometimes will give people deadlines and tell them to send something to me, even though I'm going to have no input into it. It's like, I can't help you with your strategic financial plan, but I want it on my desk at noon on Friday. And they'll do it because I've insisted on having it. And then I'll say, no, I didn't read it. I don't have any input into that, but you needed to get it done. And they're like, oh yeah, I did it because you told me I had to. Yeah, it's weird for grownups. You expect that with kids, but there's something about us all that we resist that final put it into motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful. Well, let's talk. So can you tell us a little bit of a sneak peek about your new book and kind of the process you went through that kind of is parallel to this discipline that you're sharing in the Sprint Writing Studio?
Yeah, I can. And I've got to say, this is a new and different one for me. I've written self-help and business books, always on my own. And in this case, and by the way, I am an award-winning and best-selling author, so that's always nice to add. I was approached by a university, by Rice University, and they have this amazing program where they offer professional coaching to any student that signs up for it, undergrad or graduate students. And it's run by a former brigadier general and a team, and it's all about accountability. They were given a great grant to do this, to build this. The fellow, John Doerr, who's the head of Kleiner Perkins, the venture capital firm, he and his wife are Rice grads, so he gave them $50 million and said, go create some leaders of tomorrow. And they set up this institute. And once they saw how well it was working, and it's really the only one of its kind in the country, they wanted to write a book about it. So they brought me in to really codify the process. And this is co-authored, but with two other people, with Tom Kolditz and also Dr. Ryan Brown, both multi-PhDs. I'm the writer. They're the lots and lots of initials people. And it was a huge stretch for me, not only to co-author and have joined voices, but to have heavy duty research. And it was a fascinating process. And just today, it went back to the publisher. And it's about developing leadership programs for young adults and certainly for academia, but I think it is absolutely as relevant for the business world. So I've added another layer of really becoming an expert in emerging leaders and creating development programs for leaders. And every book you write, you know this, even if you already know your stuff, you're writing your way to the next level of your own knowledge base, of your own abilities. And you got to take yourself there before you can get anybody else there.
Yes. I think that is a point that only writers really understand. So when people say, well, what are one of the benefits of writing a book or even just writing a daily email, writing a blog? It's about capturing your thought leadership in a fixed form. So there's a great story about George F. Will, the columnist and political commentator. He was in a inner city Washington, D.C. library doing a youth program. And one of the kids raises her hand and says, Mr. Will, how do you write so much? I mean, how do you think up these things to write about? And he says, well, that's a very interesting question. Sometimes it works like this. I will sit down, I walk into my office, open up the laptop, sit down, and I just start writing about a concept or a theme or an idea or a little bug that I got in my brain, and I just start writing. And then I'll hit print. I'll walk over to my printer. I will pick up that page and a half. I will look at it, and I will say to myself, so that's what I think about that topic. That the writing is the thinking process. You don't need to think everything out and have all the constructs in your head and then start writing paragraph one. Sometimes just let it flow, right? Process things on paper. Like we sometimes say, let's process that out loud, right? Yeah. Hear me just throw some spaghetti against the wall.
Yeah.
What if I just say, type some spaghetti against the wall, right? That freedom saying, hey, you know what? This is not in its final format. I'm just going to throw up on paper and see what comes out. You then look at it more times than not. It's much better than you think it is.
Yeah.
It might not be publication ready, but it's much better than you think it is. And you're like, so that's what I think about that.
Exactly.
So when you capture your writing, you're also, like you said, you're up-leveling your thought leadership.
Yeah, for sure. I will find sometime, this is really uncanny, is that I'm in the flow, and I always say my thoughts come out my fingers. It's on the keyboard. And I'll use a word that maybe I've sort of kind of heard of, but I don't really know what it means, but it sounds right there. And then I'll look it up and think, that was spot on. That was exactly right. So your subconscious has a way of just guiding you. There's a lot we know that we can just let percolate if we ask ourselves these questions and then let it come out in writing. And it's a really interesting experience when that flow happens. And anybody that's had that, I was just in the flow and I just kept going, that's a great experience. But also it works the other way. If I have people that say, I can't write unless I'm inspired, I said, well, let me give you a prompt and then you can write. Here's your prompt. I had a woman who's got a book about her father's World War II letters that she just discovered. So she didn't know what to do with all this, but it hit her like a ton of bricks. Here I am in lockdown and COVID. I'm reading about my father who was a prisoner of war. And she was like all over the place. I said, well, just start writing. And that just lost her. And I said, start with the moment you opened the first letter. And she was like, oh, that I can do. That's it. That's all it took, is start somewhere. I don't know if that'll be the opening of her book, but it gave her a starting point instead of thinking, oh, this is massive. It's all of World War II and my whole family experience. Just start somewhere.
Amen. And I'm going to tell people where to start. Start by going to davidscoolfriends.com. Get in on this session of Libby's Sprint Writing Studio. It will be such a game changer. And I'm telling you, this is at least $500, $1,000 a month. Libby is crazy for giving it away at the rate she's giving it away, but who knows, maybe crazy like a fox, we don't know. But talk about deal of the century to get someone of your caliber. And I'm not just blowing smoke now. This is really, really true. Because I've worked with editors, I've worked with ghostwriters, I've worked with developmental editors who are kind of half ghostwriter, half editor. And when you quoted $5,000 earlier, I'm like, the last time I looked, it was more like double. It was more like 10. It was $10,000 to get someone to really come alongside you, shape your writing, shape your ideas, be an accountability partner, be an encourager, be a co-creator, be someone who can put their hands on your writing and make it much, much better, much, much more quickly. If people are saying, well, wait a second, this is too good to be true, I want to throw out one final concept here. And this is from my buddy, Dan Janelle. Dan, of course, is a master at publicity and writing press releases and all these kinds of things. I say, Dan, how do you help your clients so much with these press releases? Isn't that an awful lot of work? Isn't that very, very time consuming? He says, David, I love it. And my brain is wired that way. Some people relax by doing a crossword puzzle. I relax by doing a press release. Yeah. So if it talks to your native genius, and Libby, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think this really does tap into your native genius, that you do this as easily as most of us drink a glass of water. It just comes easily to you. It is very difficult and very challenging for others. When you have that native gift and you love exercising that native gift, that's when you get the deal of the century, like the Sprint Writing Studio. Am I right? That's right. It's fun for me. I mentioned I've got a dog trainer client. She's just sweating over, I have to put up a virtual how you can train your. Now she's convinced it can be done because now that's what she's been doing for 5 months. Right. But the actual doing of it, oh my gosh, of writing that page, I said, take a crack. 5 minutes. So move this. I'm done. It's easy. I mean, that's fun for me. I love it. All right. So the URL, the shortcut URL is davidscoolfriends.com. That gets you the special preferential rate on the Sprint Writing Studio. It's once a week. Yes, once a week. It's Thursday mornings. Fantastic. And that's the accountability. That's the critique. That's the writing lab, the co-working space, the virtual co-working, and direct access to you to peek over their shoulder, check their work, improve their work, and become a much better, stronger writer of pretty much anything that they want to write. Yeah, it doesn't matter what they're writing. Right. I love that. Well, thank you for being on. This was tremendously fun. Thank you, David. I'm just honored to be one of the cool people. It's taken me most of my life, but I'm finally here. You have arrived, my friend. You have arrived. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Libby. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.